Here we are from State Control Britain. We are live. It's 6:55 live. I tried to make it a sort of catchy title. Most people seem to tune in at 7. Anyway, Jonathan, what's been going on in your world? Did you want to talk about your holiday?
Yeah, sure. First, thanks very much, everyone, for joining tonight. Appreciate being here. Also for Stephen for dedicating his time and focus and energy towards hosting these things, because these are, as I understand, very exhausting. But Stephen's pumping out so much good information, guys. So I suggest checking out his school community for sure if you have not yet already. That'll be available under his channel description and perhaps in the chat as well as a pinned comment today. Also, thank you very much, everyone, for all their sort of hellos and likes and stuff like that recently. We do try to sort of integrate the chat as much as possible in our Q&As, but I understand we want to get to these answers as quickly as possible because we know we have got a lot of questions, which is always great to see. So it means we can actually help people out with our experiences. As for me, as of next week, I'll be going on holiday for 2 weeks. That'll be in Lanzarote, which is absolutely excellent. I'll be happy to sort of collaborate online with people and do live streams as well. I'm in the same time zone over there, guys. So, things are as per normal. Same with my clients as well. Same normal standard stuff. But yeah, if not, you'll catch me in the live chats, and I'll be happy to sort of say hello and help out there wherever I can. But yeah, how's it going, Stephen? How are you doing tonight?
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, it is quite tiring, but it's so rewarding. As you say, you get nice messages, and I'm interviewing Dr. Malcolm Kendrick tomorrow, so that should be out the week after. Hero of mine wrote The Clot Thickens, which I do think is an exceptionally good book. If you're interested in cardiovascular disease, the nightmare that is statins and cholesterol, but you want it referenced and with some humor, it's about the best book you can get, I think. The Clot Thickens. I like the title. He's emailed me today a few things, and it's just been a pleasure, because even in his emails there's a bit of humor, and he's exactly what you expect. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to sitting, asking a very simple question, and then just luxuriating in a really knowledgeable answer. So that's one thing to look forward to. So to be honest, I'm a big fan, and that's what it's like, isn't it, Jonathan? Sometimes you meet these people online and you think, am I really talking to this person? I've followed them for so long.
Yeah, I've been struck a few times actually. Maybe just as I was starting up as a content creator about 3 years ago. I remember looking across your stuff, and I know you're working with the Steak and Butter Gang at the time. And once I think you asked to interview me, and I was like, oh, I feel quite honoured really, because at the time I think you were probably the biggest or one of the biggest carnivore channels out there at that point, especially in the UK. And I thought, brilliant, I get to chat with this guy. So yeah, I was definitely interviewing lots of people at that time, but I was quite thrilled to speak with you. So.
Which is very kind. I was expecting you to mention Bart, actually, because I thought you were quite a big fan of Bart's, and you've been on his show quite a few times, I think.
Yeah. I've been following Bart now for like 8 years, literally. So, Bart and Harry come first foremost in my mind in terms of people I first sort of like looked at in terms of the carnivore space and absorbed their info, So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you're very kind because you mute your microphone. If people are wondering whether we're on a satellite link or something, no, it's Jonathan's very good with his etiquette, and he mutes his mic when I'm yabbering on, which is better for the sound, which is good. Maybe you should try and mute my mic when I'm talking. More beneficial for people listening. It was a joke, Jonathan. Right, and anyway, let's have a little look. You're right. Let's acknowledge all the people that said hello. So that's good. Rick, I need to get Rick back on my show if he'd do it. Sunday, the day of competing live streams. I don't know if that's alluding to the fact that I did one at 5 and also did a private one at 6. Rebecca, it's just nice emojis with hands waving. Lorraine, hi. Morning. Hi, Jonathan. So that's possibly someone from your channel. And we've got Ricard saying, hey. Now, the name I always get wrong. Joe is saying, hey, Jonathan and Stephen, happy Valentine's weekend. Yes, it was nice. That's a good weekend. I went to see a comedian, very happy that I saw him, Mark Simmons. Nancy, hi, everyone, back again. Yes. And then we've got, of course, Jonathan, who was very supportive at my 5 o'clock which is great with Lee. Lee was did you think he was on form today, Lee? He was great, I thought. Coach Casey, hello from Idaho.
Yeah, Lee was bang on.
Yeah, it was. Lorraine, we're all grateful for Stephen. You could have added Jonathan there as well. So let's go to Joe's first question. And as carnivores, what choice of animal protein, as it's from your channel? Why don't you go for it, Jonathan?
Oh, choice of interest or preference versus optimization, I guess, is probably the point to probably get across. I quite like beef brisket, slow cooked with some cheese on it. That's like my go-to staple sort of thing every day. In terms of like optimal, we're looking at probably, I would say lamb, just 'cause it's got more omega-3 relative to omega-6. The quality of lamb tends to be more, I say, standardized, more even across the board, just by how they are grown, how they're bred in a sense. The sort of feed that they have. There's nothing wrong with beef either. You're not gonna be missing out on a ton if you eat beef and salmon, for example, versus just lamb alone. But that's my preference. What about you, Stephen?
Well, you see, I think what you've accidentally answered there is it's what is your aim? Because you're into building a lot of muscle, so you might be going for that. Whereas other people, I will answer my own one, but I'm going to give you a strange answer. I include a lot of seafood because up until age 50, I couldn't eat seafood and I was always jealous. So my training partner, who went on to compete at the national level in bodybuilding when we were sort of 20, 21, 22, and if Rachel from Carnivore Fitness is listening, by the way, I saw a picture of your dad with Dorian Yates, and I think I was actually at the same show as an audience member, and I looked quite good, and I had my picture taken with Sunny Schmidt. Anyway, but I doubt she's watching. But anyway, Jonathan probably knows who that is. So if you're bodybuilding, then those choices happen. But because my training partner, because he was working, it was easy for him to have tuna. He had loads and loads of tuna. Now I was stuck with chicken, which is obviously bro science, isn't it? Chicken with the skin off. It was like, I really want that tuna because it seemed like better quality protein. So at least 3 or 4 times a week, I will have some salmon. I had mackerel last night, which is, I said a very strange, silly thing, but I just said to Jane, this is really like how you'd imagine someone would be eating a fish if they were a hunter-gatherer, because it was just beautiful. It looked like a fish. It tasted like a fish. So that's partly my history coming through. So lamb is my sort of choice. I did have a sirloin tonight, which is good. And we've got another question coming up, which I'll give you an interesting answer to. Drumsticks, I like if I feel like I'm missing how I used to eat, which is not very often, but sometimes I do. And I think, right, I'm going to get a load of drumsticks and salt them, get some nice crispy skin on there, and eat it like it would have been, a Kentucky Fried Chicken or something. So that would basically be it. That would be it. Beef, lamb, pork, I like if it's good quality, which you can get. I'm not an organ meat sort of person, but I would have organ meat once a week, maybe flash fried with some bacon. So yeah, that would do. And if I'm fat fasting or trying to lean up, then maybe some bone marrow would be part of it. But I know that's fat. You talk about animal protein, but we're going to go on to the next one. I don't know how you fared on Valentine's Day, Jonathan, but as carnivores, what protein is on your Valentine's menu?
Brilliant. Good question, Joe. Well, I actually had 3 meals yesterday as opposed to my usual 4. Right. My Valentine's Day meal. So I had basically a live video date, online date, basically. I had 2 fillets of salmon, 1 heart-shaped beef burger with some sort of cheddar cheese on it. Then I had 2 chicken thighs, a handful of mozzarella cheddar cheese blend or something. Then I had about 1/4 of a tub of carnivore ice cream, which I make myself. It's not entirely carnivore friendly. It's got sweeteners and stuff in it, Then I had some carnivore jelly that I make myself. Then I had a bone broth. I think that was it. So that's something like 200 grams of protein, 125, 130 grams of fat in one sitting. And it took me ages to get to sleep. So that was my Valentine's Day menu, basically being stuffed. What about you, Stephen? Did you go out when you had you went to see a comedian? Do you have food out there or anything? Or
Yeah. Now, I'll be absolutely honest with you. We went out to a place in Leeds before this comedian, and we booked. It sounds posh, but it isn't. The Ivy, very good food, and I was expecting to have ribeye on the bone, which was £38. That's quite a bit of money when you consider that the trains to Leeds from here was £35. So it was a lot. And they offered for half that price. Don't freak when I tell you, but they offered shepherd's pie. Now, I've seen the shepherd's pie there, and it literally is beef and lamb in a sort of like disc thing, and then the potato is on the top. So it's very easy to take the potato off and eat beef and lamb. So that's what I did, and it was fantastic. So and beautifully cooked. There was a little bit of rosemary in there. So yeah, I handed in my carnivore card as I left, but it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And then, in the evening, we had smoked salmon. We had mackerel, and the smoked salmon, we had a little bit of cream cheese. And Janie's completely off the dairy, so that was her pushing the boat out, really. So I think you can do carnivore. It depends how strict you are in the first place to how special these things can be. But you see, in the Ivy, a nice red rose being delivered by the waiter, the plate's looking good. She had a red wine, I had water. I don't drink, and it was fabulous. And I think it's all about the attitude you take in. It's not about the food, and it was good cooked, well cooked food. So and the company was great, and the the guy that serves there is a foreign gentleman. We can't quite work out where his accent's from, but we've been there a few times, and he just treated us like royalty. He's just so good. And the reason for that is we've got a common thing, and that's our dogs. And we had our dog the first time we went, and we weren't allowed to sit in the restaurant. We had to sit in an outside bit, which was great. There was heaters and things. And he loved our dog. He loved Rupert. And he said, I've got a dog. And he showed us on his mobile, and we were interested. You see, a little bit of being interested in people goes a long way. And we just genuinely interested. Lovely dog. So the next time we came in, he remembered us. Oh, we can get a table. Where's Rupert? It's like, well, he's been dog sat with a retired couple who lost their dog last year, and Rupert absolutely loves them, and they love him, and they've got a big garden, and he can play and stuff. So, you can sit inside. So he remembered everything, and we were just treated great. And I just think a little bit of being civil and a little bit interested, but you've got to do this. You've got to be interested in people. You've got to understand that, if they got a question, they're worried, try and answer it as best as you can. And it's, it was lovely. Yeah, mackerel, someone's just saying mackerel's really nice. Let's have a look. So should we go to the next question?
Yeah.
Which is right up your street, because you really know your stuff when it comes to supplementation and vitamin D levels and all that. So let me just start the next one, so we were nice and slick the next time. And this is about vitamin D. Right. Serum vitamin D at 134 nanomoles per litre. Comment was, as a comment I'm assuming on the labs, query vitamin D toxicity or over replacement. Was taking vitamin D supplement but stopped approx 3 weeks before the blood test. Should I be concerned about this, Stephen? Thank you. I know it says me, but Jonathan, do you want to chime in first?
I'll give my brief thoughts, but this is certainly something you'll be able to help me with, actually, because I've got some questions myself. So I've had values similar to that myself with no symptoms. Does that mean that I'm scot-free, that I'm going to be absolutely fine and not suffer because of it? I don't really know. I mean, the fact that it's remained after about 3 weeks still high. I'm going to say high, relatively speaking, in the context of the reference ranges. I believe the reference range is typically something like 50 to 150 nanomoles per liter, maybe.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, so something like that. So it seems high or elevated. I'd be curious. Obviously, vitamin D is drawing more calcium into the body, kind of in a sense. I'd be conscious of having enough K2 in the diet to make sure it actually calcifies where it's meant to go to support bone density, and any sort of other sort of factors that calcium is used for in the body. Outside of that, the fact that it's been remaining elevated since might suggest you've been using too much when you were supplementing originally. But my kind of question for you, Stephen, would be this level being so high after 3 weeks of no supplementation, is that a problem? And how long do these levels typically remain elevated for? So if someone is on the high end of the reference range, is it that it goes back to baseline, maybe like 50 to 100 after 2 months, after 3 months? I mean, what do you personally see with your kind of testing, with people online? Because I've not looked much at vitamin D levels explicitly. So,
okay, yeah, good question. Well, firstly, I wouldn't be concerned with that level because, as Jonathan says, the range, you are in that range. Remember, it's not an optimal range. That's still a normative value. And Jonathan, again, he's been very spot on with his answer. How do you feel is also important. And I did do an experiment last year. I'll get to your question in a minute, Jonathan, just to help people out. So I took my vitamin D levels with no supplementation, no fermented cod liver oil, and I felt great. And I had a very low level. I mean, maybe 50 nanograms per litre. So, not nanograms. What am I saying? Nanomoles per litre. And then I took the fermented cod liver oil, and up it went, maybe 100. Felt the same. Felt absolutely the same. And then I took a supplement, a vitamin D3 supplement, and it shot through the roof. And I felt the same. So, there is a big correlation between the non-active and the active form. And this is what we're always saying. What's in the blood is not what's in the tissue. So you can have theoretically a fantastic level. And, you mentioned Harry Sopanos, and maybe we should do like a three-way with Harry Sopanos to talk about this in a bit more depth. And you could feel terrible. Your immune system definitely needs vitamin D3 and, like you say, K2, MK4, I think, rather than MK7. But anyway, that's another matter. When you stop the supplementation, there's too many factors really, because, and I'll give you a different thing that you probably never heard before. So dietary vitamin D, up until about 8,000 years ago, when humans were crossing from African, continents into Europe, was still predominantly black. And there was a cataclysm maybe 13,800 years ago where the megafauna died out. And I think there's strong evidence to say that our skin, as a race that had moved, I'll make that very clear, did get lighter, not because of the sun in a direct way, but because the vitamin D from the food reduced. Because the body's so smart, and no one really talks about it that way. But I think when you I like joined up thinking, and I think that actually has more credence than any other thing. I don't think just moving would go, oh, there's less sun, so we're going to get lighter, which definitely has a common sense to it. But I also think nutrition makes a big difference. So the point being, when we talk about levels, are we eating a lot of vitamin D? Are we consuming it? Are we out in the sun? Are we having enough fat? And this is where the joined up thinking about the levels and how you feel is really important. So, Jonathan, if you presented with, wonderful numbers for vitamin D, K2 and everything else, and you were constantly ill and having colds and stuff like that, it doesn't matter that you've got great ranges. There's something up. And also when you look at active and non-active, I think there's a huge disparity between the numbers. That's really common. So is your body uptaking it? And I think that's the thing that Harry's really good about, is you could have low levels in the blood, but actually you could be igniting your immune system, getting so much out of what you have got that it's gone down. So in the question there, possibly, if you stop the supplement, it's really hard to say what you did after that. And where was your levels before you stopped the supplement? It's a sliding doors thing. You really, and this is why we're always talking about, and Jonathan says the same as me. It's a snapshot, one test. You probably needed to test before you stopped the supplement, maybe the day before, then 3 weeks later, and then maybe another 3 weeks later to see what is happening. But then also log how much sun exposure you've got. Have you changed that? How much you're sleeping? And it's a very joined up thing to do. So I can't really help you right now because I think it is a thing where we need to sit down and go, right, let's look at the whole thing, broad brush, how vitamin D works, what's its role. Obviously you talked about calcium, so then you'd have to get like parathyroid readings and calcium levels, obviously, and then we could look at what's happening with the osteocalcin and the MGP. So there's a lot more to it. So D3 loads the gun, doesn't it? That's what they say, and K2 aims it. So D3 helps with the movement of calcium, and K2 will take it and stop it getting into the tissue. So I think the short answer is it depends. Rubbish answer, really. But if you had all of those things, if we could look at more labs in more context with a little bit more background of what's been eating, what the sun exposure is, how much you're sleeping, and how you look and feel, how much energy you have, I think we could say, well, this seems to be a good level for you. You train really hard. I mean, that's obvious. So your immune system, for want of a better word, is in overdrive because you're repairing so much. So that would lead me to think you would need more vitamin D, but it wouldn't lead me to think I'll see more in the blood because you're going to be super, the uptake's going to be super, because of the shape you're in and what you're doing. And your body is now, no pun intended, but well trained in recovery. You can't get to look like you look without your body being able to recover, because muscle building is not about, well, it is what you do in the gym, but it's how you respond afterwards that does everything. So, that good enough?
Yeah, I love that answer completely. It's kind of similar to how we view ketone levels in the blood versus saliva versus breath. It comes up with a different number every time, sort of thing. You can't, you like you said, you need to look at the whole picture. And I like the fact that you alluded to, it's not just the outside in factor of vitamin D from the sun. There's also the inside out. How much do we take in from our diet? We weren't eating. The idea that we've been eating lots of omega-3 fatty fish, vitamin D in it, thousands of years ago, which perhaps allowed our brain to develop faster or bigger or better. That was at that point in time. Okay, how does that impact our life if we're then switching to a more dairy-based diet or more ruminant meat-based diet? Geographically, that could change based on what part of the continent you're on as well. So I like that idea. It sort of it opens up the picture a lot more. It's not as myopic as our typical, white person moved here, black person moved here, and this happened from the sun. It's a lot more evolved thinking for sure. So I like that.
Yes, and let's put on the screen the super chat, which is great. Super sticker from Mandy. And I've now learned that that's on your channel, Jonathan. So yes, and Jonathan is saying thank you very much, which is good. Right, we've got a question from Ben. No, not Ben. Sorry, Cat Purple 7. Cat Purple 7. Carnivore for 5 months, fell off for 3 weeks, and started with explosive diarrhea. Been strict carnivore since the 26th of December, but still diarrhea. Been doing line diet for 4 weeks, still diarrhea. Any advice? Jonathan?
Great question. I think this is one of those ones where I have to say I don't know, but I'd rule it out through a means of denomination. So you've made this intervention. You've gone from a bit of junk of Christmas, fine. Mm-hmm. Great, you've now gone line diet. You've removed all the stuff. You've probably tapered back your excessive hunger signaling, your taste buds from Christmas, whatever. Your gut microbiome is probably about settled at this point, or it should be. However, it's not. Well, there's the problem. Now, what people do when they usually switch diets is they'll probably drink more water because, I'm not eating as much junk food. I'm hungrier. I want more water. Okay. Then are you adding more salt because you're adding more water because you've got a higher taste for salt? is that salt too much for your guts at that point in time? You know, you need the chloride element, you know, I guess like the chloric, you know, the chloric acid to digest and create enzymes and allow the pH of your gut to be perfect to facilitate different protease and lipase enzymes for doing their job in the body. That might mean if you're having too much, you might be secreting more enzymes of what you actually need or relative to what you're actually taking in. The other factor is, okay, you're going Lion diet. Is it that you're slow cooking all your meat? Is it that your histamine levels are rising because you're having more processed food or longer processed food? That could be an impactor as well. Is it you're having just minced beef versus before you might be having, you know, clean cuts of meat? Is that aged? Is that not aged? Is there more collagen in the meat you're eating now versus not? You know, you can see easily how we can unpack it. So my best advice would be switching up initially. If you're adamant on being on the Lion diet, you're like, this is what I need to do to get from A to B of your health journey, whatever it is. Switch up the meat in terms of the processing level or the way you cook it. So it might be burgers to clean cuts of meat. You might be doing joints of beef rather than sausage meat, whatever. Then you might think, okay, how much salt are you having with each meal? And it sounds overly pedantic or bit too particular, but you know, weigh your salt each day. If you're having 6 grams per day, for example, I don't know, it's just a random arbitrary amount. Maybe have 4 grams for a few days or a week. Does that impact things at all? And if you notice some reduction in bowel movements from day to day, okay, maybe salt might be something to look at. Have you added in any supplements? Have you added in magnesium citrate, for example? So there's loads of elements you could be looking at. But if you're looking at it in isolation, I'll be thinking it's probably something like that, which maybe has changed, but you've not realized it. That's my personal best guess. But I'd say work through the interventions by denomination. So, you know, okay, in future, if I happen to try this again or I deviate, this is something I need to be more mindful of. But what's your take, Stephen? Because it is a massive topic, you know, diarrhea coming out of nowhere and apparently sticking to the most ancestrally appropriate diet known to man. So what's going wrong here, do you think?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. You talked about bile and enzyme insufficiency, possibly. That's good. Fat malabsorption is a possible. I know you did 5 months where it was all right, but you've sort of reset yourself a little bit. Hydration, I think you can drink pure water, but you can't urinate out pure water. So you need some salt in your water. I think that's going to help, and you're going to change your fluid balance and your electrolyte balance just by doing that. So a 1/4 teaspoon of salt in a small glass of water. I would sip that throughout the day, or you could do it. You could take, you know, a big mouthful. I prefer people to sip it, but you could just take a big gulp once every 90 minutes if you want to do that. And I think after 3 or 4 days, you should resolve itself, really. But, you know, when people go off and then they change and then they change again, so you were carnivore, now you're on Lion, that is a big change. So your gut microbiome's got to pick up, but so is your enzyme production, which is why we always recommend a slow transition, unless your personality isn't like that. You know, if your personality is, I stop smoking, I stop drinking, you know, and the only way you're going to stick to it is absolute dive straight in. But for most people, it's a slow transition. So you came off, and although you'd previously been carnivore, you went to Lion very quickly, but you weren't Lion before. So I just think what Jonathan said, just be mindful, do a little bit of experimentation, track what's going on. I'm not talking about calories, I'm talking about tracking what's going on, how much you're eating by weight, what are you eating, when are you eating? So, you know, you get a really good idea of where everything is. Just if your urine is clear, that is telling you you're overhydrated. So do be aware of that. And if it's dark, you're underhydrated. You need like the light straw color. And people say, well, why do you keep going on about that? Because diarrhea is fluid. You know, it's a fluid balance thing, amongst other things. So just get that bit right, which is really easy. You haven't got to pay any money for a test. You just look down, you know, at what you're producing. And if it's clear, you're like, oh, I'm overhydrating. Simple, really simple. But yeah, that's great. And you're sort of healing because you've gone from not eating very well to eating appropriately with a lion diet, well, there was always going to be sort of a lag. There's a little bit of inertia in the body. The gut microbiome is not going to instantly go, this is the new us. This is what we're needing. So a little bit of time as well. So good question. Very good. I was just doubling down on what Jonathan said, really. Let's look at the next one, and let me star one that's coming up. And I think this is just to generally talk about what I just said, really, which is my worry eating out is the seed oils. I find it very hard to trust the food is seed oil free. Do you eat out much, Jonathan, or are you just a stay-at-home eater now for that reason?
Funny story. So usually I'm more like a eat out once a month with family kind of person. The last month or two I've not been. So I'd say for the last month I probably had a meal out of family each week.
Cool.
What I just tried to do is pick foods that I know are less likely to be cooked in seed oil. So for example, if you're at a Thai restaurant, you're not going to have egg fried rice. You're better off picking steamed rice.
Yes.
If you're having a meal out, steak and chips, I don't know. Maybe don't have the chips, have the baked potato. Ask to swap it out. That's your best guess. At least that way, okay, maybe you're trying to be strict carnivore. At least then okay, there's not going to be extra contamination on my plate because they've put chips on it rather than a baked potato. So you can pick things like that. Sometimes you can just ask ahead of time as well. So oftentimes, because of my physical limitations, I guess, I'll actually call up beforehand if it's a new restaurant and ask, what's your seating like? Do I need to bring a cushion, for example, a pillow to sit on? What kind of drinks do you have at the restaurant? Is it going to cost me £6 for a glass of water, or should I, just drink nothing there? I'd say call ahead and just ask them. They're generally going to be pretty honest. And if they say something like, we use very healthy oils, forget about it. They're using seed oils, and what the average person's perception of healthy oils is basically junk, the ultra processed crap that has like 12 processes just to get it on your plate, basically. So that's what I'll be doing. Just think ahead of time, really. You can't always be 100% certain. What I do know personally is if you're traveling a long distance for a family meal somewhere, you go past McDonald's. This will sound like terrible advice, but if you just get the burger patties, guys, they're, to my knowledge, pepper, salt, beef, and they don't use seed oils when they cook their burger patty. So you could just order a load of like double cheeseburgers and just not have the rabbit food, basically, or the duck food, as Rick would say. So that's your next best guess. But if you're in the UK, it's probably not quite as bad as if you're in the US. They're a bit behind in that. But that's just my general advice. What do you say, Stephen?
Well, pretty much that. I mean, yeah, being mindful, asking ahead. I mean, this is the thing. You can ask. We now trust where we go most often, so we don't need to ask. But if we went somewhere new, we would say, what do you cook your steak in? And they'll say seed oils, and we'll say, can you cook ours in butter or tallow or something like that? And if they say no, then we won't eat it, or we have the informed decision to make, which is, it's frustrating for me. But I think with the new food guidelines and people talk about seed oils a little bit more, and there is an app called Seed Oil Scout, which is it tells you where there's places where there are no seed oils. I think it's getting a little bit of traction. People do understand it. So yeah, we had ours cooked in butter, lightly cooked. Great point about McDonald's you said there, Jonathan, and many people are surprised at that they don't use seed oils or vegetable oils. So you can definitely do it. Just being vigilant and also make a informed decision, like a net benefit thing. If you want to risk it for the Swisskit, and have a little bit of food because you're in the right place with your family or whatever, it's not great. It's not the great answer, but it is an answer. And omega 6s will be in you, and just go back to the right way of eating. It is very difficult. Yeah, and if I'm sounding world weary about this, I am, because we've been eating out. It's very difficult. It's really that simple. We were in Marks and Spencer's yesterday thinking of doing some content because we were picking up stuff and it was rapeseed oil, and stuff you would not believe. You know, and when you look at chocolate, so I mean, this is sort of on the back of the comedian talking about ingredients in food. I mean, the Lindt chocolate balls, that sort of doughy, gooey bit in the middle, is a seed oil. It's a vegetable oil. It's not chocolate at all. We used to have an advert here in Britain. If you like a lot of chocolate on your biscuit, join a club. And it was a club biscuit. That's got no chocolate on it whatsoever. It is all chocolate flavour. So you have to be vigilant. You have to learn how to read the ingredients. Even honey, you know, honey, a lot of times when it was looked at, you know, as low as 10% of the honey was honey. You know, so great questions, actually, really good questions. Let's go to the next one, which is from, oh boy, this is Jonathan's. I'm going to sit back and just enjoy this. Micah, have you tried any peptides? They seem to be everywhere now.
Well, I know Stephen's tried out BPC 157 to little to no effect. So I'll rule his answer out already. My answer is, yeah, I've tried most of them. Trying to think now. God. I'll give you guys the ones that I like personally that have been helpful to me, that I can say they've worked. But of course, this isn't medical advice, of course. But yeah, so delta sleep inducing peptide. A lot of these things are basically signaling molecules that your body would otherwise produce on their own, but putting them back into your body exogenously can allow that signal to still happen in a dysfunctional body. My body I'll describe as in some ways dysfunctional, in that I wake up in a lot of pain and I can't continuously take painkillers all day, all night, because obviously the next day it impacts your cognition, your ability to my ability to coach people, make content, my daily function, my energy levels, things like that. So what I might do sometimes is I might initially use my nightly dose of prescribed medication. And if I find that I'm using a dose which is perhaps too high or high in that next day I'll feel crap, then I'll use delta sleep inducing peptide as an injection format. I prefer to use them intramuscularly versus subcutaneously. The reason being is they sting for me a lot less. There's less to go wrong. You're less likely to have any sort of abscesses under the skin and things like that as well. Now, obviously, if you're using these things, make sure you refrigerate them, use best practice. Don't just go out there and buy them because I said I've used certain things. Do your own research, actually read the things yourself. If you do not know what 10 milligrams looks like and how to reconstitute it with 1 milliliter of bacteriostatic water, it's not for you guys. I don't want people out there using the wrong dosages, using too much or too little, or not getting the effect they want. So I see that very commonly across forums online. They don't know what the dosages are. Make sure you understand exactly what you're putting in your body, the exact dose per unit of measurement volume, for example. Delta DSIP that I was using, around about 500 micrograms some nights. I don't have to use it every night, but I find it helpful when I do. Other things include BPC 157, TB 500. They help with blood vessel formation, improve recovery, reduce inflammation, help muscle, tendons, gut lining, all sorts of things throughout the body. Your body does produce the BPC 157 innately. In the context of a carnivore diet, which you might be following, this could be either very helpful or not. If you're someone with a lot of gut dysbiosis, then it's going to be more helpful than not. And like this person said here, BPC was brilliant for my ailing stomach and acid reflux. Yeah, it does help with things like that for sure. There's other things as well which are particularly good for gut healing. So one might be KPV. That's got very solid research on it. I can't remember what it stands for, KPV something. I think it is alluding to the specific amino acid sequence within that actual peptide chain. Other ones include, I believe, LL37. So they use that for things like, I believe, Crohn's and SIBO, perhaps. The studies on this are often from Russia, and they're quite often from research 20, 30 years ago. But what has happened is it's basically sort of stopped research on them. So a lot of the time you're reading old science. So by default, you do have to rely on modern day, I guess you could say, anecdotes online. What I'd probably suggest doing is actually reading real anecdotes from people that don't sell them. that aren't affiliated with these companies. Yeah, if you take BPC 157, it doesn't mean that you're going to all of a sudden not have DOMs from training. You're not going to be able to run 20 miles extra. There's other things as well on the mitochondrial peptide kind of chain of things as well. They're very helpful to people that have had basically any slurry of medications that do or very often can impact mitochondrial function. Basically, if you Google or search your medication of choice that you've been using, type in mitochondrial function, you'll probably say it will probably make it worse. You'll know that's true because you'll see that can cause inflammation, that can cause gut disruption, reduces enzymatic function, reduces vitamin and mineral absorption, things like that. So generally, a lot of them are going to impact that. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 5 to 10 years, people started using these as like a daily vitamin, just the way we still use vitamin C or magnesium. Some people do anyway. That's kind of my standpoint on those. The different peptides can be put into different families or groups, which means that they have different activation levels or points where they'll function best or reconstitute best in the formula you make. Make sure that with each peptide you use, that it matches the pH of the corresponding peptide that you're taking in with it. So if you're using a stack of them, for example, BPC 157 and TB 500, they can be used in the same syringe. Not medical advice, but they can be, because the pH level to sustain that peptide within that formula, that reconstitution is appropriate and okay. Now, if you use something like GHKCU, which is injectable copper peptide, that one can impact the delivery, absorption, simulation, reconstitution of other peptides. So some of them, they belong in different families. So you have mitochondrial function peptides, you might have exercise mimetic peptides, you might have skin rejuvenation peptides, you might have what's the other one? Wound healing, gut healing peptides. They'll have an optimal pH level or range that they work best in. So I suggest keeping them in that way. Now, other things as well to consider, try and pick a good source. So if you're buying them for research use online, for your pet rat or kangaroo that you happen to have bouncing around your kitchen, try to make sure that you're buying them from reliable sources. That means you're looking at the website, you're seeing, okay, they've got a lab report from, for example, a testing company like Janashik. That's where people can actually Google or basically find out where and what the peptide is. So it'll say, for example, Janashik, ABC123peptides.com, whatever, or whatever the brand is or whatever. Then you can say, 99.9% pure. These are the this is the HPLC data. These are the peaks, these are valleys, these are the trough. This is the area under the curve. This is the testing method. This is the HPL. This is the assay analysis. This is the molecular mass. Okay, that ticks off that peptide, which means you're buying what you get, and what you put in your body will be what you're paying for. So just make sure you're buying good quality products, because some of them are faked. Some of them are actually extremely expensive to buy, which is, I've actually looked at sourcing them myself just out of curiosity for research purposes, and some are extremely expensive to buy. So if you see a deal online that it seems too good to be true, it probably is. These things don't run cheap, especially at the moment, because they are, I'll say, novel in terms of not every factory supplier or creator out there is making all of them all the time. They're quite limited to very specific factories that they come out of. So by default, the market monopoly is quite specific. So yeah, hopefully that's a sort of a brief run around into peptide sort of things, the things that you probably need to know, the things that you should be looking out for. But more information, you do have to go into a lot more detail, and there are some studies out there which you can read to sort of really get into nitty gritty. But that's a brief whistle-stop tour, I guess.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That's why you're here. I mean, you're very knowledgeable. Let's get into the next question, which is, again, this is going to be up your street, to be honest, Jonathan, because you're an expert in all of this. I've started taking MSM twice daily, as I still had joint pain, hip and knees, as a carnivore for the past 2 years. This is a big improvement so far. Have you experienced with MSM?
Yeah, so I've used this one myself for joint pain in the past, specifically knee pain as well. I did find it helpful, but with a lot of supplements, some of them you can use in the background and not get any symptoms or side effects that are negative.
Mm-hmm.
For example, a low dose vitamin D, you could probably take that for years and years and years and not experience much negative, if anything. Things like this, though, there are large elements, large compounds. You're looking at taking these in the several gram doses daily. I've seen anything from around about 1 gram to even as high as 10 grams daily of MSM. It stands for something like methyl sulfonate methane, something like that. It's meant to be good for joints and healing, things like that. It's a sulfur compound, basically. Some people don't clear sulfur very well away from their system. So what you may find is may find you add it to your intervention, your supplement plan. Great, you're doing 3 grams a day, split morning and night. Okay, great, it's fine. Your knees get better, your hips get better. And all of a sudden, you start feeling sick. You start getting headaches. You feel nauseous. You take the tablet and you just feel, oh, I don't want to take any more of that. So that's the point where you stop taking it. All these things are like Stephen would point out and I point out, they're supplements. So use them intermittently for a period of time to get the beneficial effect. For as long as those symptoms last, then you aim to get off them after a period of time. The same way you might a medication. For example, you might not use an antidepressant if you're no longer depressed. What's the point? So you just use what you have to use to get the job done, basically. You could probably say it's pretty similar in a sense to like iron. You might be deficient in iron, supplement with iron, fine, great. Blood iron picks up, your energy levels pick up, things seem better, you feel more energetic, blah, 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 blah. But then you start to feel sick. But you've cut out everything from your diet. You're using the lion diet. You're just eating meat, lamb, beef, salt water. You feel sick every time you eat, but you're still taking the iron. Or maybe you've got too much iron now. Maybe your body's saying cut it off. But your appetite signaling is against everything that contains iron. So you might still be taking the iron supplement, thinking that the meat is causing the problem, but really it's just the fact you're adding 24 milligrams of elemental iron each day, which is probably too much for you. In which case, stop taking the supplement. So yeah, that's kind of my experience. I didn't notice a benefit personally. The doses do vary, and I believe Harry Sopanos might have some content on this one in particular if you're interested in more information.
Yeah, and for people that might have spotted what Jonathan's saying, I just want to echo the fact that it is a supplement. It's not fixing the underlying cause. That's what I meant to say. It is supplementing, and anything that's a problem is giving you feedback. So, the iron one is a very good example. So if someone's fatigued, there could be a problem with iron. Let's use that as an example. So you get all your bloods done, and there may be a problem with iron according to the bloods as well. So you take a supplement, you start feeling better. Well, what's that fixing? Nothing. That's just not really saying, well, why are you having a problem with iron absorption? So, especially in the vegan diet, it could be because they're having problems with vitamin C or too much vitamin C. So, yeah, great answer. I haven't really used it. I did try it for a little bit, but because I didn't have any symptoms, I felt a bit of a fraud just taking it. But anyway, right. Darren is saying, let me get rid of that. Darren is saying, turned to very carnivore to help with rosacea. Any suggestions to help would be greatly appreciated. Jonathan just spoke a lot there, so I'll give him a break. Eliminate all dairy if you've got dairy in your diet. Dairy is very triggering for rosacea for a lot of people. It doesn't mean you can't get back to it, but it would be nice to have like a 30-day try with no dairy whatsoever. Don't change two things because you won't know what the problem is, because the next thing you could do is you could try and take eggs out, for instance. Well, you might want to take eggs out first. If you feel, oh, actually, there's a correlation. I have a lot of eggs, but don't have much dairy, then eggs is the next one to try. So they're the two biggest things. Lion diet, we mentioned. So you go lion diet, and then after 30 days, you can add one thing in. And coffee, it's another one. Problematic for many people with rosacea. So, and make sure you got enough fat as well, because skin does build from within your body. So enough fat is needed to be able to make your skin nice and healthy and glowing, but that won't happen overnight because you know the surface of your skin is dead cells and they flake off, and then new skin cells come up towards the surface, and you know that's going to take a long time. So the other thing is, I'm going to be boring, overhydration. Don't overhydrate, don't underhydrate. Try and get the appropriate level, which you can do completely free by looking at urine. So if you want to add, Jonathan, I'm fine. Or if you want to move on to the next question, fine too.
We'll move on. I think you've given a very good answer there.
Yeah, thank you. That's very kind. Okay, this is a nice one from Mr. Beaumont. And we're coming to the end because we're not going to, we started at 6:55, so we're going to probably start finishing in about 5 minutes. So we'll do these questions. So glycation versus glycation dash fructation or CDORs, which is worse and why? Well, the only way to work that out is a fight. Get them to fight each other. No. Well, glycation is glycating proteins, which we know is damaging to proteins, obviously. Fructose is 7 to 11 times more glycating, and it also lowers the hepatic ATP concentration. So we know that. Seed oil is a completely different mechanism. So we're talking about omega-6s and the ratio between omega-3s and omega-6s, and you get more cell membrane damage. So I don't think it's a case of what's worse. I think it's a case of avoiding all three, personally, because it's a bit like saying, which leg do you want cut off? Which one's worse, your right leg or your left leg? It's like, well, they work together. You know, I'm sorry to be pedantic, but, you know, and also it's consumption. If you are having seed oils once every 6 months, they're still going to be in your body, you know, 6 months later, even if it's a small exposure, which is why I was careful with the thing about the restaurants. They're not great to have in your body, but neither is glycation or the damages of fructose. But I don't personally think I could answer that, but Jonathan might have a different take, so I'm happy for Jonathan to dive in.
Yeah, I mean, I stand by what you said. It's they're all bad. Ideally, you avoid all of them. For some people, depending on the culture, perhaps there might be more of one thing in their diet typically than the other. It could be that I'll give my own little experience. So I had a private blood test recently with my omega levels, fatty acid levels within my blood, and what turned out optimal for everything, which didn't surprise me at all. You know, like Stephen, long-term carnivore, very little exposure to, you know, excess sugars and feed oils, things like that. I have a very high omega-3 diet. I seem to notice a very good benefit from including more of that in my diet. Therefore, for me to notice a detriment from it, I'd be having to consume a lot of omega-6 and rancid oils over a long period of time. So that's me as an individual. Acutely, I know if I go to McDonald's and I haven't been to McDonald's for years, guys, for this sort of thing, but if I had a McFlurry with lots of sugar in it and say that was going to cause lots of glycation, I'd get quite a strong, immediate, short-term acute effect. I might get puffy eyes. I might wake up a bit bloated. Might have some gastric distress. Might have acid reflux. All sort of short-term acute sort of responses you can notice in the body. Now, the seed oils, you're going to struggle to really notice it because, like Stephen said, it's something which you store in your body, which means the effect of that storage might not get to the point until it gets to the exponentially increasing storage point within your body that you notice it causes the damage. So that's why it's such an individual answer. And that's probably why, at least with our human brain power, we probably couldn't answer that question unless we put a load of information into an algorithm with AI and put in everyone's individual stats with their, you know, the blood values of some kind, the glycation level of the body, sort of things like that, and their omega-3, omega-6 ratios and other fatty acids within their system. So it's a very good question, and it's something we would also love to know. But that's the problem we have with answering the question, because it depends what your start point is and how far into your carnivore diet journey you are, and also your individual acute response. So for me, having very specific things like chocolate and berries, they'll give me a very, very, very bad response versus, say, Haribo with glucose in it. So I'm better off eating Haribo than I am eating fruit. You see what I mean? So therefore, one's going to be worse for me than the other. Now, if I then have some seed oils in the form of McDonald's French fries from the takeaway, the restaurant, I might get an acute effect. I might get some whiteheads pop up, some oily skin. My body will generally clear that quite quickly because my default settings of high omega-3 levels to omega-6 in terms of ratio are a lot better than most people's. So that's why it's so individual. But that's my take, and I'd love to know the answer one day. So there we go.
Yes, yeah, that's a good answer, Jonathan. Really good. Right, okay, so we've been online 55 minutes. So 2 questions to go. If you haven't got your question answered so far, I do apologise. I would definitely recommend joining my school community if you can, because you will be able to join a question and answer session on a Monday, on a Wednesday, on a Sunday, every single week, and you get all your questions answered. So, of course, we're here free. I mean, this is free, so we're doing it. Right, let's have a look at this question. Is hypervitaminina mean oasis something to worry about? Long day. I love raw liver and have a history of anemia. Is this appetite for liver a signal that I need it? Yes. I mean, that's how the body works. If you're anemic, then you're likely needing that nutrient. That is very true. You'd have to eat a lot of beef liver consecutively for a long period of time to have a problem, I think. 100 grams of beef liver is something like 20,000 IUs. And toxic level is over 50,000. So you're under for a long period of time. That being said, you just got to just be mindful, just be careful. If you like liver and you like it raw, then yeah, just look at how you're reacting. I mean, if you start getting headaches, you're probably eating too much. If you feel nauseous, or you have nausea, I should say, that's probably a sign as well. So, oddly, when you have too much iron or too many vitamins, you can see that your skin will start peeling and become very dry. So there are symptoms to look out for as well. Can you think any more, Jonathan? I think dizziness would be another one.
Like nausea, dizziness, sickness.
Yeah.
I think there's some kind of there's a word for it. I can't really describe it, guys. Apologies, but I think liver, for example, has a lot of iron, a lot of copper, a lot of vitamin A. So a very high dose of different vitamins and minerals. The context of an individual's diet, besides that in particular. So, for example, if they're also having a load of eggs with lots of, I don't know, what's in eggs? I don't know, selenium. If they're having a lot of fish, for example, with a lot of trace minerals, a lot of copper, that might mean that they actually lose the taste for the liver because they have so much copper in their diet already. However, they might not be able to alleviate the symptoms of iron deficiency anemia because they've lost the taste for liver, which is their main supplemental form of iron. So that's one problem with the organ food. So when people say, I know like myself, probably Stephen, Bart K, we sort of say, yeah, have liver if you want it, just be mindful of your appetite around it. But also be aware of it doesn't have to be a staple within your diet by any means. I've not had liver personally for a long time. I've had like beef liver capsules and things, but it's not something I particularly need. And I have a family history of anemia and things like that. So, I mean, the blood levels will give you so much information, of course, but I would just make sure it's not a fundamental in your diet. I wouldn't be sitting there thinking, I need to eat 300 grams of liver every day. You know, you might be able to do, I don't know, a pound a week. So 454 grams a week of liver is probably fine for most people. Some people maybe a bit more, but it's what we've kind of seen, at least in anecdotally, is people aren't eating a diet of just liver. Apart from Jo, who's in the chat right now, she's been eating a lot of chicken livers recently. But I'm sure her appetite will sort of change over time. But yeah, that's kind of my point. You know, a liver of an animal is what 1-2% of the whole animal, so you know it's not going to be the mainstay of your diet by any means.
No, that's a good answer. Okay, and talking of Jo, there's a question from Jo, which is: we would hate driving through the countryside when there were yellow fields of rape in bloom. That's called rapeseed. I have to say that because YouTube might flag that word, by the way. Is there any correlation of the rhinitis effects of the flour and the rapeseed oil? Yeah, right. Jonathan, did you want to do that, or do you want me to do that? I don't mind.
You do it. You'll be a bit more concise than I will, I think.
Okay. Well, the only connection is the plant. So what you're feeling in your nose is pollen, so it's airborne pollen. That's that. And the effects of the oil are from what's contained within the seed when it's crushed and chemically altered with hexane and heat and deodorization, and you end up with this omega-6 laden rapeseed oil, and that's very inflammatory. So there isn't really a correlation. It isn't the fact that because it makes your nose not particularly happy, it's also going to not make your body happy, because you could be allergic to sort of other pollens but also be able to eat the fruits of that thing. But seed oils in particular is because we intervene and there's a mechanical heating, chemical deodorizing process that changes the makeup completely and utterly. I always think when we talk about oils, the easiest thing to think of is olive oil and seed oils. An olive you can take off and you can squeeze it and you can get oil. You go and do that with a seed and you just can't. So it's not a natural oil. It's just so obviously not good for you. I'm sorry if that's very basic, but I wanted to be brief. As Jonathan said, I can be brief, so I've been brief. But it's a great question. Sorry we didn't get to all of your questions. I'd like to have got to all of your questions, but I've been online for a long time today, and I think Jonathan's been very kind. He's given us an hour already, so I'm not going to abuse his time either. And I'm going to say, Jonathan, what would you like to say to wrap up?
I'm not going to do any self-promotion. I would like to promote Stephen's stuff. He's been here all day, guys. And when he's not doing this, he's setting up live streams, collaborating with people, doing free informative content, creating Substack articles, all sorts of interesting stuff. So you can find everything related to carnivore and carnivore-ish stuff for his channel, through his school group as well. If you want to follow me, I'm on Carnivore Muscle websites, obviously carnivoremuscle.com. But yeah, definitely subscribe to Stephen, and also Common Sense Carnivore group is linked on the screen right now in the bit.ly group, bit.ly/Common Sense Carnivore. I'm on there very occasionally when I can be bothered to have a look, but it's such a lively, vibrant sort of community. I don't really need to have to do much. Everyone's very helpful and piles in and gets involved, so definitely check that one out.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's really good. So yeah, Jonathan's details are there if you're interested. Jonathan's YouTube, and yeah, definitely check him out. If you haven't subscribed to his channel or my channel, or if you think you're subscribed, double check to make sure you are. Make sure you like. Comments are always appreciated, good or bad. Questions are also really appreciated. If you've got any questions for my guest tomorrow, which is not going to be a live, it's going to be recorded. It's Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, who wrote The Clot Thickens and also the Cholesterol Con. If you've got a question, drop it in the comments. I might be able to ask him, but I think it's a pretty full-on interview already booked for tomorrow, and that will be out for my members in the school group probably Wednesday, and then it will be out on YouTube maybe a couple of days later. Anyway, thank you everyone on YouTube. Love to see you over in the group community. Make sure you definitely like and subscribe to Jonathan's channel, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.